First off, before we even get this video started, I just want to apologize to you all for dropping this video later than initially planned. It's just that I ran out of memory on my phone. That's the first reason. And the way iPhone works is when you run out of memory, you have to pay for extra memory. So I had to, I was really tussling with the decision to purchase more memory or just wait until I go through everything and clear my phone out of some pictures and videos. But this is very important. I wanted to get this done for you guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the discussion. What is pretty neat is I have a smart TV. So this smart TV allows me to get on the internet and search for whatever it is I need to search for. So I jotted down some notes on my notepad on my phone. Then I copy and pasted it on Gmail and sent it to myself. Then I got on the internet on my TV and opened up that email that I sent to myself on my TV. So now I can read the notes, and that way I don't forget anything important that I may want to touch on, discuss, or talk about. And as you guys can see, I have my glasses on instead of my contacts because I have on these nails, and it makes it hard for me to grip the contact and put a new contact in. And see, if I grip it the wrong way, I can ruin the contact and it'll just completely go to waste. So I think I might just go to the doctor and have the doctor put it in while I have these nails on. But in the meantime, I'm using my glasses. So yeah, so let's get started. So I know you guys have been dying to get my reaction, my response, and my review on the Selena Netflix series. I was surprised, I was shocked, and I was impressed. Honestly, I really was. I was impressed by what I saw. I'm trying to position the camera in a way where I don't have to keep holding it, but my bed is unstable, so. I know you guys might say, oh, just use the desk, but my husband has a ton of shit on the desk. I'm not gonna deal with that right now. But I was impressed, I was shocked, and I was moved. I mean, the things that I saw really was an eye-opener for me on some things that I didn't really go into too much in-depth detail about in my thought process about the Quintanilla family and about Selena. First and foremost, you know, I really, and before I say this, I want to clarify something. I am not a big fan of Abraham's parenting of his children and of Selena. I'm not a big fan of Abraham himself either. But just because I'm not a big fan of him and his choices and his style of parenting does not mean I hate the guy. I don't hate anybody. If I'm hating somebody, then that makes me a very false version of myself. I don't hate people. If anything, I might get upset or have a disagreement or have differences, but I don't hate anybody. But I really, for the first time, I saw Abraham in a light that, okay, I'm carrying the load here as far as making sure I find my kids gigs and deals, and I'm driving this bus and keeping us on the road so that we can continue to keep working. I want to keep my kids on a straight and narrow path, and I don't want them to be doing drugs and drinking. I don't want my children to lose sight and focus of what's most important right now, and that's to reach our goal to be stars. Right? So I really saw Abraham in a human, in the softest human form that you can think of. Like, for a long time, I disliked Abraham. I would have some negative things to say, but I really saw Abraham in a different light this time. And this series has shown him in a perspective that has made me have a soft spot for Abraham. Does not mean I like him, because I'm not gonna be wishy-washy and be one way one minute and another way the next minute. And if you guys hear any children in the background, that's my youngest son being loud, so I apologize. I have my door closed so he doesn't interrupt us. But anyhow, yeah, it made me have a soft spot for Abraham, and it really made me see the man in a positive light, in a soft place, because one thing I can relate to in watching this character is that he was first a father before he was anything else. Although he showed a lot of rough edges and he was vulgar and things like that, that was just his way of getting things done. That was his way of protecting his kids, especially Selena, because she was the lead singer of the band. And it was just his way of getting things done and being the protector. He did the best he could to protect his daughter, protect his children. But his way of doing that, Abraham had to be how he was in order to continue to push the envelope, to push barriers, to get certain things done in the industry. Because as you know, Selena and her family, they had to go against all the odds that were stacked against them. You know, the business was not female friendly, if you know what I mean. It was about men singing and dancing. It wasn't about women singing and dancing. So it was a male dominated business, and Selena had a barrier and an odd against her just already. So that's just one strike against her already. She's female. The second strike was that she was young, and you know, a lot of people looked at them like small kids and didn't take them serious, and would tell Abraham they would never make it and things like that. So Abraham was dealing with all of that pressure and all of those challenges, but yet at the same time he had this dictatorship relationship, I would like to call it, going on with his son. And he put some pressure on his son to do things too, because he wanted his son to know and understand that in his business, you're not treated like a child, you're treated like an adult. And you got to take what you want. You can't just wait around for what you want. Things are not going to just fall into your lap. You got to make things happen. And that was like one of the main things of this series, was just making things happen. All right, so let's start off with the first note that I wrote. Episode 1, Selena not wanting to leave her siblings behind for the crossover album. Now this is when Selena arrives in Chicago. She's on the bus, she's waving to fans. She starts having doubts and feelings of guilt and fear, and she's down, and Suzette comes and talks to her and tries to console her, and AB joins, and they remind her and let her know this is the dream. This was what we talked about since we were kids. You got to get out there and you got to do your thing. We will be right here beside you, watching and supporting. They had to remind her that this is the sacrifice that they have to make to reach to the top, and putting the band in the background and not to the forefront was that sacrifice. And she was, you could tell that scene basically was showing that Selena was very close to her sister and brother. They had a very tight-knit, close relationship. They were a close-knit family, and so Selena leaving her siblings behind to do this major deal for the record label was tough for her, because that was a change that she was not used to or wanting or expecting, and she had to pull herself together, and she had to deal with that change. It says, worrying about the fans being happy, or I put saucier, but I didn't put saucier. I think when I was swiping on my phone, it changed the word to saucier. But let's just keep going through. It says, worrying about the fans being happy or saucier with her performance. Are they going to like her? I don't know what saucier should have been, because I did not take the time to go back over my notes and correct that word, but worrying about the fans being happy with her. Selena had this thing, and I don't know if this really happened in real life. I don't know if Selena was a, type of person that right before performances she would be worried and nervous. But in the series, it was showing that Selena was worried about whether or not if the fans would like her, if the fans would like what she puts out and like how she performs. And both her parents and her siblings would remind her that yes, they would like you. You are the it girl. You have it, and they're gonna love you. And she would always doubt herself in that sense. Next note: Selena's name, meaning goddess of the moon or moon goddess. Selena's gender was mistaken as a boy at first. So when Selena's parents picked her name, they were, they wasn't even thinking of the name Selena. In fact, they was expecting to have a boy, and they had a name set for Mark Anthony Quintanilla, or Mark Antonio. Well, so the series says Mark Antonio, but when I've done all my research, it always said that they were planning to name Selena Mark Anthony Quintanilla, but the series said Mark Antonio. So Mark Antonio, Mark Anthony, whichever one. That was the name that they were going to plan on naming her because they thought she was a boy. They were expecting a boy. But there was another woman in the hospital room that was right next to Marcella, and she had a baby also, and she was expecting a girl but had a boy. And so the name that she was going to give her baby that she thought was a girl, it was going to be Selena. But since her baby turned out to be a boy and not a girl, she had to come up with a whole new different name for that baby because that baby was not female, it was male. And Selena's parents, same thing happened to them, but just the complete opposite. They were expecting a male child and had a female child. The woman next to them was expecting a female child and had a male child. So the lady next to them offered the name Selena since she couldn't use it for her son. And she said, well, I was going to name my child Selena because I was expecting a girl, but you guys are open and welcome to it. It's free for you guys to use. And so Marcella was basically liking the sound of the name. She was, feeling the name. And so she was saying, I like that name, Selena Quintanilla. And then Abraham, he goes to look up the meaning of the name. And when he found out it meant moon goddess or goddess of the moon, I'm pretty sure the type of personality Abraham had, he probably liked that meaning for his child, so he went with it. So that's how Selena's name came to be. The rest is history. Let's see the next note. Selena's talent was first discovered when Abraham was playing guitar. Now, I put when Abraham was playing guitar. I did not put when Abraham was teaching AB to play guitar because that's what the series says, but in all my work and research that I've done, I have found that Abraham himself was playing guitar and he was tuning, jamming to a song, and Selena was singing along to it, with it, or to it. And when he heard Selena's voice and he discovered how talented Selena was, the rest was history. I mean, he had to jump on it and get his daughter's talent exposed, right? So that's what really happened is he himself was playing the guitar and Selena started singing along and he heard her voice and he was moved. And then the rest is history. Let's see. Next note, Selena begging coached by Abraham to doing with passion and emotion. Selena's voice sounding like a woman. Okay, so what I meant was Selena being coached by Abraham to doing the music and songs with passion and emotion. When she first started out, she was not singing the songs with emotion, and I guess, she didn't know how to do that. You know what I'm saying? And any child starting out, they're having to learn their craft. They don't know all the ins and outs yet, you know? So Selena would sing, but there would be no emotion in it. There would be no passion in it. And Abraham would cut her off and stop her, and he would coach her and teach her how to sing with passion and emotion. And then once she got that down, the sky was the limit. I mean, she was great at it. Selena's voice sounded like a woman. So when she was first starting out, they said at age 6, but in the movie it looked like she was older than 6. I mean, in the series she looks older than 6, but according to the family's information that's put out there on the internet, Selena started out singing at 6. So she started sounding like a woman at 6 years old. And when you sound that mature at that age, that just goes to show how rich and how deep the talent really was. She was really, truly talented. She was born with that talent. She was gifted. So Selena didn't have to take singing lessons or vocal lessons, or she didn't have a vocal coach. Everything Selena did and learned how to do, it was from her own mind, her own father giving her, input here and there, but she learned how to sing on her own. I mean, she wasn't taught how to sing. Next note, the U.S. was going through a recession. Quintanilla lost the restaurant. So this is the time where I believe Ronald Reagan was president, and they were dealing with Reaganomics is what they called it. But the oil industry was having some issues, and the ripple effect and domino rally effect of that was basically Abraham lost the restaurant. Marcella and Abraham, they had to come up with a new plan of how they were going to support their family. Because by then, I think Abraham had quit Dow Chemical already, if I'm not mistaken. So once they lost the restaurant, I think Abraham's mind was just like a lightning bolt. He was laser focused on getting his children exposure, on getting his children to the top. He was focused on making sure his children were going to be successful, and the band was his goal and nothing else. So yeah, let's see the next note. Shopping late for groceries and making AB dumpster dive for cans. Yeah, like, do you guys see a problem with that in that one scene where he waited till late at night to do his shopping, and then he actually ends up leaving and makes his kids do the shopping while he goes sit in the car? I just think, I'm so sorry about that, guys. My video cut out because I am running out of memory, but I didn't fix that. So yeah, so like I was saying, I think that Abraham, he was a man of pride. He was a prideful man, and because he allowed his pride to get in the way, he allowed himself to feel and be ashamed of receiving food stamps. But then he was very, quick to think real quick on his feet. He had a quick and immediate response to his children being sad about being in the store this late at night. So it was kind of like his way of, I don't know, like making it okay that they're in the store that late at night when they really should be at home in the bed. But at any rate, yeah, he did everything he can to hide behind the fact that his family was receiving food stamps. And I think at the end of the day, if they were struggling, he should have been grateful to get the food stamps and not be ashamed about it. I mean, if you need help, you're supposed to be able to receive the food stamps if you need the help, and it's no shame in that. My family grew up on food stamps for many years. My mother was on food stamps, and when I first became a young mom, I was on food stamps, so it's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, the American people, they need help, and it's no shame in receiving help from the government. I mean, your money is getting taken out of your paycheck to pay taxes for these programs anyway. So really, you're taking money that's yours anyway. It's no shame in that. But like I said, Abraham was a prideful man, so he didn't want his family to be seen or known for getting the food stamps. And I can kind of understand in a way, because when you're performing and people start to notice you, you don't want the people that notice you to be known for something that's less than, or you don't want to be looked at and viewed as devalued. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of understood in a way why he was ashamed. But he just let his pride get too much in the way that he would make his children do things that he didn't want to do himself. And then the thing with the dumpster diving, he made AB go dive into the dumpster to get these peach cans, when I believe the parent should have dumpster dove into that dumpster to get those peach cans. I don't agree with him making AB go dumpster dive to get those cans. He should have done that himself. And that was another thing, Abraham would always put a lot of pressure and responsibility on AB. And I understand, I get it. He's the oldest child. And in any family, when you are the oldest child, certain responsibilities are put on the oldest child, because the oldest child is the oldest sibling. And I understand that. But it's just certain things that, in my personal opinion, I would never make my kids do. Not ever. But hey, everyone has a different parenting style. I can't tell that man how he should have raised his kids, but that's just something that I disagree with in his parenting choices. Let's see the next note. Starting out, they didn't have many people interested in them. Practice and hard work, followed by sacrifices of childhood and fun and living with Uncle Hector. Yeah, so we all know that I was about to say the ABs. Oh goodness, I have to get my mind together. We know the Quintanillas struggled. They did not always have it all, and they did not have everything that they needed when they left Lake Jackson. I just think after they lost the restaurant, that's when things started going downhill for them. That's when their struggles really began, is when they lost after they lost that restaurant. So then when they moved down to Corpus to live with Uncle Hector, that was the times that they had where they were struggling. It was on the food stamps, and Abraham was ashamed of it. And they were sleeping on the floor, guys. They were sleeping on the floor. Like, they had sleeping bags and pillows, and they were sleeping on the floor. What do you guys think about that? Like, that's some deep stuff, right? And Selena had friends that at the schoolhouse wanted her to go to certain events with them. She was invited to go places and do things, and she always had to turn them down because her father's goal and focus was the band. And Abraham wasn't going to allow Selena to go to these places or do these things, because he at the time felt like what's most important right now is this band, and if we want this band to be anything, we have to put the band first before every and anything. They had to practice, and they had to do a lot of hard work. They had to make their clothes and make their own lights. Like, after he made AB dumpster dive for those peach cans, he made lights out of those peach cans. And sacrifices of being a kid. Selena couldn't focus on being a child, neither could her siblings. They had to focus on playing in the band and doing what they had to do to make their band successful and get their band exposure. They didn't like the idea of living with Uncle Hector, so it seems in the series. Suzette and the other two, they all seemed to show a disappointment of having to live with Uncle Hector. And Suzette did not want to move to Corpus, so it seemed in the series. She was very upset about that. That showed. And of course, Abraham, reminded her and let her, know and understand that there's a bigger goal in mind. We're moving to Corpus because we have a goal to reach, and our lives are changing. Let's see, what's the other note? Yeah, so the other part of the note that I wrote, starting out, not many people were interested in them. Like I said, people took them for a joke. They were kids. Selena was female. And people at that time, during that time frame, and this was probably like the early, mid 80s, the culture in America at that time, and even in Mexico, was men performed. It was not women. It was not female. It was males. And a lot of people who were in the music industry were adults. There were no children. So Selena had two odds stacked against her. Like I said, she was female, but she was also a kid. People took them for a joke. People didn't gravitate to them immediately, and people laughed at them. But they persevered. They got through that. They kept doing what they needed to do, and Abraham was right there to stir the ship, to be the person who was the conductor, to be the person who drove the ship that they were sailing on. Let me see the next note. Suzette was very opinionated and very strongly felt some type of way about playing the drums and her father's style and choice of music. So yeah, in the series, Suzette seemed to really fight against the idea and fight against the grain. She really did not want to play drums. She really felt strongly that drums were not for girls, they were for boys, And like I said, this was a male-dominated business. Women were not looked at as higher than, or women did not have a high pedestal, she didn't like her father's style and choice of music. She was not interested in it. When Abraham sat them down in the living room and he tried to, teach them some things about music, Suzette, she had this closed off mindset because she was so focused on the fact she didn't want to play the drums. So, Suzette was very strongly opinionated. She really let it be known what she didn't like and what she was not interested in. But eventually, she came around, Yeah, so the next note, it says episode 2. So this is where episode 1 ends, and this is all the notes I jotted down for episode 1. And those are the things I got out of episode 1. All the notes that we just went over. Those were my input, my response, my reaction, and my opinion of all the things that I pulled out of episode 1. So let's go ahead and go into episode 2. It says, the performance at the club drew in a little girl to give Selena a white rose that lit up, birthing the symbol of Selena's brand. Now let's stop right there. When that girl walked up to Selena after the performance and gave her this white rose that lit up, it was beautiful, guys. Oh my gosh. And I'm pretty sure those of you that have seen the series, you know what I'm talking about. The white rose that lit up, it was so gorgeous. Before that scene, Selena, I'm sure, did not think of the rose as her brand, but I think when that little girl gave her that lit up rose, it made her feel special, but at the same time, it gave her an idea. And I'm pretty sure she didn't come up with that idea right away after the girl gave her the rose. I'm pretty sure she came up with the idea sometime after. But in my opinion, I believe the little girl giving her that rose was the birthing of her brand. And, well, I'm going to say the birthing of the symbol of her brand. Now, I don't know if this really happened in real life or if this was just a made-up part of the scene in the series. I don't know if a little girl gave her a lit up rose in real life, but if this really did happen, I believe this is what birthed the idea of the symbol of her brand. Next note, Selena's first crush in middle school or high school, not being able to hang out with friends. Now, we already just talked about this, how Selena wasn't able to go hang out and do things and go to the movies and things of that nature. She had to make a lot of sacrifices for the band. Her sister and brother, they had to make a lot of sacrifices for the band. They didn't really have much of a childhood, Their childhood was spent on the road, touring across Texas and doing shows. So yeah, Selena not being able to speak Spanish fluently on the Johnny Canales show. So this is the part where she's on the Johnny Canales show and he asks her about her outfit. How did she make it? And she said, first, fluorescent paint, permanent paint. And she said, Los Paintado or Los Paintado or something like that. But that was just an example showing that she was not fluent speaking Spanish yet, because Selena grew up speaking English. She's an American, a Mexican. She's an American Mexican, and Mexican Americans, they grew up speaking English. They didn't grow up speaking their native language of their people. So Selena did not grow up speaking Spanish. She did not know Spanish initially. Her first language was English. So when she came across that reality, I think she was a little embarrassed, probably. And, she probably felt like, okay, man, since everybody has their eyes on me, it's important I learn this language so that when people ask me questions, I can answer, and I think she probably felt that pressure, and she was probably a little embarrassed. And I think that's what gave her the drive to want to learn. And then when she started learning, she got real good, guys. I mean, she got real good. And, Abraham told her the best way to learn is from listening. Don't be taking these courses and repeating certain things. You sound like a teacher, he said. So his perception and his way of learning, he said the best way to do it is by listening and repeating. But don't do it the way the textbook does, because then you'll sound real choppy. And he might have been right. If that's the way that she learned, if she really learned by ear, that's probably the best way to learn. Because you get the pronunciations down, you get the accents down, you get the context of the conversation down, you get all the concepts down way better when you just learn, by hand. When I say learn by hand, meaning not physically doing things with your hand, but you know what I mean. I don't know the correct phrase to say this, but when you learn in a way that the brain is able to pick up quicker and faster, that's the best way to learn versus just writing and jotting things down. You don't really learn best that way. So she did a great job picking up the language and learning it, and she became really good at it. And one of the YouTubers I was looking at said that, a lot of the Mexicans in Mexico view Selena as whitewashed, and she was, and that from their perspective, she was the one with a language barrier, because like we were just saying, Selena didn't initially learn how to speak Spanish. That wasn't her first language. So she had to learn how to speak the language. And so in order to please her Mexican fans in Mexico and to please other fans in the US of Mexican descent, she had to learn that language, guys, and appeal to her fans in a way that, and connect to them in a way that she didn't know how to before. So in order to wash away that perception and that label that she was whitewashed, she had to really buckle down and learn the language. Let's see what else. So let's see, puberty with Selena and the natural desire to want to be kissed and to know how to kiss. So Selena was going through puberty at this time, guys, while being on the road. And, she started, liking boys, and she wanted to know how to kiss, and she wanted to be kissed. And what girl doesn't when she's going through puberty? I know when I started going through puberty and I started liking boys, I wanted to be kissed. Hell yeah. I wanted my first kiss to be special, and I wanted somebody to like me. And when I was growing up, I was a tomboy. So I would be the only girl out there on the kickball field playing kickball with the boys. And this was like around 2nd, 3rd grade. I would be the girl out there with the boys climbing trees and hopping fences. And I had on my shorts and sneakers. And, I was that girl. I was that tomboy. Seriously, I was. I was not girly at all as a little girl. I was very boyish. But, I say maybe around 10th grade, that's when I started changing up my whole tomboy image, and I started dressing girly. I started acting more girly, because I wanted to be appealing to the boys that I liked. I wanted to be liked by boys. So in order for me to be liked by boys, I had to retire my tomboy hat and hang that up and I had to go ahead and feminize my look and my image and get with the program. Because if I didn't get with the program, I wasn't gonna get no boyfriend. All right, y'all. So I think she was going through puberty and wanting to be liked by boys and wanted to be kissed. She wanted to know how to kiss, and she wanted to be kissed, because I wanted that too. I wanted somebody to like me and kiss me, and I wanted to know how to kiss. I wanted to do all those things when I started liking boys. And that was the time where I was just really like, you know what? I really got to do all I can to be noticed, So that's what made me want to hang up my tomboy hat and get with the program, because and Selena probably wanted to do that too. Shoot, she wanted to get with the program. Hello, y'all. Selena wanted to get with the program, okay? We all did. All of us girls at that age. She was probably around 13, 14, and 15 years old, And when you like boys, when you start liking boys, that pressure is put on us girls to get with the program, So I'm sure Selena was traveling and on the road, and at the same time figuring out a way to try to find herself. And she wanted to go out and hang out with friends, but Abraham never let her do it. And if he let her do it at all, it was probably very seldom. Same thing with Suzette. She couldn't go to the movies when she wanted to, because Abraham always told her no. And so, he was a strict parent. He kept them on a tight ship, So let's scroll down this TV here. I believe this is so cool that I get to look at this screen, because I don't have a camera. My husband has a digital camera, but I don't know how to use the dang on thing. So I'm more comfortable utilizing my phone to record, but I have my TV here where I can just look at my notes on a separate screen. So this is really cool. The Quintanillas tried to come up with and get access to songs and working towards a record deal, being salesmen and scouts. So yeah, like when they were out there on the road, guys, the Quintanillas, they had to be scouts, salesmen, to get songs, to get exposure, to get gigs, whatever it was they needed to get for the band. They had to be salesmen and scouts to make shit happen. You know what I'm saying? To make things work and to get things done. They had to do that, Yeah, so, a lot of pressure, like I said, was put on AB to make things happen. He had to go find the, musicians to play certain parts in the band. He had to go get the songs that they needed to have a performance or to have an album or whatever they needed. AB had to figure all that stuff out, because Abraham put all the responsibility on AB to figure those things out. And then when AB thought he had the songs from what is the guy's name? Oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm drawing a blank. I should have probably jotted this down and notes the guy's name. I think it was not Manny Guerra, because Manny Guerra was the guy that was in the office with Abraham, and Abraham was trying to cut a deal with him. Mr. Silva, that was his name. I think John Silva. Last name is Silva, okay? So Mr. Silva, AB tried to get songs from Mr. Silva. Mr. Silva promised him the 2 songs, but then he drew back and took the songs away from him. So this is when AB had to learn, he had to learn how to become a writer and a producer. And that's a part of my notes too, and in some notes later, we'll resurface this talk and talk about that part too. AB and Abraham's relationship was portrayed as a dictatorship and an apprenticeship. AB carrying a heavy load and dealing with pressure and learning to become a writer and a producer. Okay, so this line did come right after. We were just finna get into it. So yeah, AB had to learn how to be a writer and a producer of the music, because once Mr. Silva withdrew the 2 songs that he initially gave them, they were under pressure to figure something out, because they had that Abraham had sealed the deal with Manny Guerra for them to get a deal with Manny Guerra. So now the pressure and the stakes were high for them to get some songs. So AB had to go ahead and learn how to write and learn how to produce, or they wasn't going to have nothing. And Abraham said this to him. He was like, son, you're going to have to figure it out, or else we won't eat. If you don't figure it out, we don't eat. And that was the pressure that was put on AB. And I'm pretty sure in real life, this was probably really happening. Like he was telling his son, son, if you don't figure this out, we don't eat. And that's a really, really shitty position to be in. You that young and you're put under that amount of pressure. That is crazy, right? So, Abraham dictated everything, and Abraham was like the apprentice. He had to learn and do. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't easy for him. There was no red carpet laid out for AB. He had a hard road and a tight rope that he had to walk. So this made me feel very. This made me have a very sensitive spot for AB, because realizing all the things that AB had to do made me realize that, gosh, AB really was the heart and soul of this band. Selena was the singer. Selena was the talented singer, but AB really was the heart and soul of this band, because without AB, Selena wouldn't have had the hits that she had. I mean, Selena was the talented singer. Selena was the singer that brought the music to life, right? Yes, granted. But AB was the one who had to make the sound. He had to put together these sounds, and he had to put together these lyrics. He had to put all this stuff together. So all the hard work came initially from AB. Selena was the star, and AB was the heart and soul. And everybody have their part to do. You know what I'm saying? Everybody have their part. And without one part, the whole thing can't work. So everyone had their special part and place in the band to do. Without Selena, the music wouldn't be what it is. But without AB, there would be no music. So granted, everybody had an important part of that band. Everybody's role significantly played a part in this band. And like AB said when he was on Instagram Live and he was talking, he was saying, everything just clicked. Everything just worked. They weren't, they were lucky in a sense because they had all the right parts to fit. You know what I'm saying? And because they had all the right parts that fit, everything was able to work. When he discovered Chris, and we'll talk about this later, when he discovered Chris, Chris was like the perfect part and piece to add to what they had, so yeah, AB really, I'm gonna go ahead and say this. If you ever see this video, AB, you were it, dude. You were the one. You did it all. So without you, would none of this be possible? Just like a lot of people say, without your dad, none of this would be possible or would even happen. I would say without you too, man, half of this stuff wouldn't even be going on. And all of y'all played an important part in the band, because your dad was the one that made the deals and used his mouthpiece and made things happen on the back end as far as the finances and the deals and stuff. But you made the music happen, AB. You did that. So this series really made me look at AB in a way like, man, okay, I'm AB's fan now. I mean, although I've always been a fan of AB, but I'm even more so a fan of AB now because I was able to see more in depth of what had to be done behind the scenes. And this is something I already knew, but this series just kind of enhanced what I already knew, and it just made me look at AB in a totally different light now. Abraham pulling Selena out of school. Hang on 1 minute. Sorry about that, guys. My allergies are really, really bad, so I had to, clear my nose. But yeah, so Abraham, he pulls Selena out of school. So what do you guys think about that? Like, honestly, like, what is more important, your child's education or the band and the music? Like what? And I think Abraham made a conscious decision. He said, okay, the school is having an issue with us being out all the time and Selena not being in class all the time. I think we're just going to have to pull her out. Now, one thing I do agree with Abraham on is don't no teacher or no principal or no person working in the school district or system have the right to tell you how to raise your. I'm so mad, guys. The whole time I was recording, my recorder had stopped and I didn't even notice. But I'll just pick up where we left off. So anytime you are in a situation where you have people trying to tell you how to raise your kids, don't let them do that, And that's one thing I agree with Abraham on, he made his decision that he thought was best for his daughter, and he didn't let nobody stand in the way. And when it comes to these teachers and government officials and stuff, and they're telling you what they believe is best for your child, don't let them tell you that. Your child is your child. At the end of the day, they can't tell you how to raise your children. But the one thing I do agree with the teachers on is, and the system on is, you want to make sure your children have an education, and that's important, So Abraham, he made a conscious decision to choose either the band or Selena being in school, and he chose the band. So that's one thing I disagree with him on. I think he should have allowed Selena to stay in school so she could have had that experience, especially socially. But, he did, I'm sure, what he thought was best for them at the time. So what else? I'm going to have to scroll back up because the rest of my video wasn't recorded when we talked about it. The Quintanilla sisters' relationship was cute, sassy. They were very close-knit and each other's muse. They traded secrets and were each other's support system. So yeah, I was just talking about how, before my recording ended, how, my sister and our relationship was, tight and close-knit. We were each other's support system as well. But we did a lot of fighting, guys. And, my sister and I, we argued, we fought a lot. And when we were kids, we just did not get along very well. But at the same time, we loved each other. We still did things together. And we have some cool memories that to this day we would sit and just laugh and talk about as adults and talk about, remember we used to do this and remember this happened. Things like that. I still love my sister. She still loves me. But we just still have things that we don't see eye to eye on. We don't agree on because she's night and I'm day, or I'm day and she's night. We're very different people, different personalities, so we always tend to bump heads. So I like that. I liked Suzette and Selena Quintanilla's relationship, how it was portrayed, and I think the series hit it probably right on point. I think they were right on point about Selena and Suzette's relationship. And I admire that. And that's something that can't nobody ever take from you. You know what I'm saying? Sisters are always going to be sisters. They were each other's support system. Like I said, they shared secrets with each other. They told each other things. They laughed at each other about things, made fun of each other about things. Just like, any other sister relationship would be. AB's bubble was busted when Abraham knocked down his excitement for their song Dame un Beso being on the radio. Abraham's goal was for them to be consistent in their success. So when AB was realizing that their song Dame un Beso was on the radio, he was excited about that. That was like a real win for AB. But when he told Abraham was like, yeah, and so, okay, your song made it on the radio. Can you make your next song be on the radio? And your next song be on the radio? And your next song? And your next song? And your next song? His point to AB was that, yes, that was an accomplishment that you made, but can you be consistent? And that's what this business needs you to do. Whatever you do, you got to be consistent, or else you will easily be washed away. You will be easily forgotten. And some people may view Abraham as like cruel in that moment, or in that instance, in that scene. Others may view him as just him simply teaching his son how to be successful in his business. And I view it both ways. I didn't like how he was trying to teach his son a lesson, but I agree with the lesson being taught, if that makes sense. All right, so that wraps up episode 2. Those are all the things I got out of episode 2. We're going to move on to episode 3. Where is my remote? Episode 3, the nomination for Female Vocalist of the Year. The family did and tunes in anticipation, finding out results. So they sit at they sit on the couch in the living room, and they're all, anxious and anticipating to find out if Selena was, nominated Vocalist of the Year. And they all just waiting, like on the edge of their seats type thing, So they sit and they wait, and they find out that Selena was nominated, and it was a great moment for them. They were excited. And Abraham, of course, what does he do? He jumps in and says, no distractions. You got to keep working. And I'm sure that it probably seemed annoying to them, because it's annoying to me even seeing this shit. Like, dang, dude, can you even allow your kids to just enjoy their moment? Like, even Marcella was like, sorry about that. Someone was trying to call me and interrupted. But even Marcella was like, can you just sit down and just enjoy the moment? And I think he never knew how to do that. I don't think Abraham knew how to just sit down and enjoy the moment. Everything was always about no distractions, work, work, work. Like, I understand, but at the same time, I don't understand the dynamic. Abraham was like a damper on their parade, so it seems, in that series, with the series portrayed. And when somebody's a damper on your parade, they can get on your damn nerves. And I'm pretty sure Abraham got on their damn nerves, including Marcellus. All right, next note. The performance in Mexico, Matamoros, and Selena taking on the task of learning to speak Spanish. We talked about this already, where she had to, take on that responsibility of learning the language so that she can improve and perfect her image and get more acceptance from her fans, okay? Next note. Suzette surprised by the girl being interested in her instead of Selena. At that moment, she was reminded that her part in the band was very important and valuable, and that she too was special. So yeah, like, I'm sure probably majority of that time, Suzette grappled with the fact that that her sister had fans, and more people was interested in Selena and not her, and that was probably an issue for her. I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. So yeah, I'm sure Suzette probably felt like, only her sister had fans and she didn't. She thought probably that no one was interested in her, and that she didn't matter, and that her part wasn't important. But little did she know that her part was just as valuable and just as important as Selena's, and that she too has fans, and she too has people watching her and looking at her and noticing her. And I think at that very moment as well, Suzette let go of that whole mindset of drumming is only for girls and I don't want to do this. I think at that moment she learned to love her role in the band. And I'm sure you guys can agree on that, right? I think that very moment spoke volumes for Suzette, and she learned to love her role in the band, because once she realized that her part was just as important, and she too has fans and people watching her, she grew to love it. That's that very moment when she finally was saying within herself that this is beautiful, and that I could do something with this. I could take it further. And when anyone discovers that their talent is important, it's a relieving feeling, knowing that you are important and that you matter. And that's a natural human feeling with anyone. Next note. Selena was a real pest and annoyed her brother. She did things like sticking her hand in her brother's food just so she could eat it. she knew her brother's issue with germs. And AB talked about this on his live on Instagram. He was saying, you know, Selena would stick her hand in his food all the time on purpose just so that he could give his food to her. And she knew his problem and his issue with germs. And she got a kick out of that. You know, she got a kick out of getting on her brother's nerves and pissing him off and irritating him. And she didn't want to go get her own food. That was the thing. She didn't want to go get her own food. She wanted to be the pesky, annoying little sister, and she wanted to take his food. She wanted to take AB's food, and she got a thrill out of that. That was the other side to Selena that we probably didn't really get to know much about, is that she really did act like the little baby sister that got on his nerves. And I'm pretty sure she probably got on Suzette's nerves too. You know, she was just like any other little sister would be, just like any other person. You know, she was the little sister, and she played her part as the little sister. And Selena was the clown. She was the goof off. She was the one telling jokes and making fun of things and making humor of things, making light of things. And that was the other part of her that we probably didn't get to see much of. But she also was that. So along with her soft, genuine side, and along with the part of her that made everyone be inspired and made everyone drawn to this inner beauty and integrity that she had, there was also that clown side to her. Next, so that pretty much wraps up. Hang on, wait a minute. Okay, so the last note here says Abraham gets his first offer for a record deal. Then Abraham managed to buy all 3 houses on the same block. So he bought that house on the corner that Selena and Chris lived in. He bought the house that Selena grew up in, and then he bought the house that AB and his wife stayed in. So he bought all 3 houses. And the way he was able to do this, and I never knew this, guys, I learned something. He was able to do this by getting what is called a consolidated loan. And that consolidated loan allowed him to get all 3 houses. So he purchased that house. He shared this moment with Marcella and made her smile. And they had a little moment where they was talking about how when they first started out, their goal was to keep going. You know, when they first met, their inspiration was for them to keep going. In other words, do all they can to be successful in their lives. So at that moment when Abraham shared with Marcella about the 3 houses that he just bought, she was amazed and she was shocked and she was happy. And that's when Marcella and Abraham really began to see the dream coming true, you know? And it's not just any dream, it's the American dream. And Marcella was concerned. She was like, you know, how are we going to, come up with the money to get those 3 houses? How are you going to manage to do that? He said, because I got the ABC deal or the CBS deal or whatever it's called. And that was the deal that he was offered by Jose Bahar when he was working out some deal with the record company. So that pretty much wraps up episode 3. We're going to get into episode 4 here. Let's scroll down. And if I haven't already said this before, guys, I apologize for speaking fast. I have a real bad habit of talking fast. I just talk fast. I'm not a slow speaker. If I do speak slow, it's when I'm thinking about something or when I can't get my words all the way out correctly, and I'll probably talk slow in that way for that reason. But when I have my thoughts all together and they're running and flowing, I tend to talk fast. So I apologize for that, guys. So please excuse me for that. All right, so we're going to start here with episode 4. AB started a new family on the road. Was AB an absentee dad because he was always on the road? And that was a question I jotted down because you look at the life of the average musician that was on the road. They was never really at home. They was never around. So my question is, how was AB able to manage his new wife and baby at home? Like, was he always gone? I'm sure he probably was, because they would be on the road, 4 months at a time. Selena and Los Dinos was on the road 4 months at a time. And They would come back for 2 weeks and then they would leave again and get back on the road again. So I'm pretty sure AB had a real tough time managing his life at home, his new wife, and his baby at home. I'm pretty sure they had to be hard on his wife and him, dealing with that challenge and that issue, him being gone a lot and not able to be around a lot. And in my opinion, Abraham did not make that a priority for his son. He didn't make his son's family a priority. And I have a real big issue with that, simply because I understand how people want their dreams to come true. And I understand that people got to work hard to make it happen. Nothing wrong with that, right? Nothing wrong with that at all. But family should never become before your work. And that's just my opinion, and that's just what it is. I'm not against Abraham or AB when it comes to this opinion, but I'm against the whole decision that was made and the whole way that they went about things in that retrospect. Family should always come first. So I'm not saying that AB was an absentee dad, but based on what I've seen from the series and based on little glimpses of what I've seen in the movie of AB's life on the road, I'm pretty sure he was hardly ever home to be a dad. He was hardly ever home to be a husband. So how was he even able to have a successful relationship or be a successful dad if he was always gone? And then you look at his life now. AB has probably had like 4 or 5 different wives total, right? Well, that explains it. AB was always on the road and gone. AB didn't have time for a relationship, you guys. He didn't have time for that. The Quintanillas didn't have time for relationships. That's why on the series, Suzette had a challenging time when she met Bill. And Selena had a challenging time when she met Chris, of course, because no one approved of it because of them fearing that it would hurt the act. But also because Selena didn't have time. They didn't have time for relationships, y'all. So if they were in a relationship, it was really hard. It was challenging. Their relationships were challenging if they had any. They didn't have the time, y'all. They did not have the time. So I think AB had a real rocky relationship in his marriage. I think he had a tough time being a dad because he was gone all the time. And I'm pretty sure that had a major impact on AB. Being a new dad and a husband. Next note. Jose Bahar discovers Selena in the band. And I think I talked about this where I mentioned where they were discovered and Abraham gets an offer from the record company. But I'll dig more into it. He basically gets an offer from a record company with, I think it's CBS. And he is sitting on this, right? He didn't make an immediate decision to be like, hey, I'm going to take this deal. No, Abraham, he sat on this and he was real smart. And that's one thing I would give Abraham credit for, you guys, is Abraham was very smart. He was not a dumb man. He methodically thought things out and thought things through before he just jumped on a decision. Because at the end of the day, his main goal was to make sure that his kids were successful. And he didn't want to just take any deal because he didn't want his children to be taken advantage of. And he didn't want him and his children to lose out on any money. Because what record companies had a tendency to do at that time, and even still now sometimes, is they would take on these artists and they will make promises for a specific type of record, or they'll make promises for X amount of money. And then once they're signed, they're holding them and they just sit them on the shelf and they just make them wait until they decide they want to do something with them. And by the time they decide they want to do something with them, their talent is not necessarily gone, but that whole drive is gone. You know what I mean? So the music business, there are sharks in the music business, and you have to really make smart decisions. So I credit Abraham for that. He made sure he made the right decisions, and he made sure he thought things through. My next note, it says, Selena y Los Dinos started mixing English-sounding music with Spanish lyrics, giving them a new sound and helping them compete with their competition. So I noticed in episode 4 where AB, when he was producing the music, he started adding English sounds to the music and using Spanish lyrics. And that made Selena y Los Dinos stand out. That made them very unique in a very positive way. It helped them connect more with their fans in a relatable way. And it really gave their fans this new sound to listen to this new sound, to dance to this new sound, to bop to. It was like a revolution in a way. It was like a revolutionary move on AB's part to add this English sound, this new unique sound that made the Tejano music that he was making at that time very rich, and he gave it a new twist. He made it like this new hip thing, because before AB and Selena y Los Dinos even came to fruition, Tejano music wasn't that popular. It was very much at the bottom. It was out, but it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't a part of the mainstream. It was not popular. Mainstream, I mean. It was not popular. Wasn't very many people listening to the music. But AB gave Tejano music that new twist and that new sound that it needed, that new hip feeling, to where kids started gravitating toward this music, this kind of music. Because at first they were probably ashamed of this music because it was a part of their culture, but it wasn't cool, it wasn't hip. So they finally had something to be hip. You know what I'm saying? And so AB was a musical genius for this. He started learning how to mix sound and different beats and things, and he came up with some amazing music for Selena. And their competition started becoming less steep as AB and Los Dinos climbed the charts with Selena. And you saw that throughout the series when they were, you know, on the road and stuff, and they had different shows, and they started winning award shows and things like that. And Selena started winning Female Vocalist of the Year. And so things were starting to happen for Los Dinos, okay? Next note. The band struggled to keep band members and were hit with challenges along their journey. Yeah, like every time a band member left, AB had to figure out a way to replace that band member, because Abraham himself wasn't going to do it. He put that pressure on his son to do it. Why? I'm not sure. In my personal opinion, I think Abraham should have done that himself, honestly. I just think as the manager, Abraham should have been doing that and not AB. I mean, he already had enough to focus on and deal with and pressure as it is, being a producer and a songwriter. Why would you add more to his plate and make him find band members? But at the same time, I'm glad that Abraham chose AB to do that, because he picked very talented people to be in the band. AB had an eye and a nose for talent, just like his father did. Let's see. Last note is AB discovers Chris and asks him to join Los Dinos to add to their new sound. So this is the moment where AB, he discovers Chris. He see how talented he is. He hears that sound that he's looking for, that he's trying to add to Los Dinos music. And Chris was like the perfect opportunity. So he sat down and had a talk with Chris. Chris didn't join right away, but he eventually joined. I think Chris's thing was he didn't want to leave Shelly Lares, you know, because he had just started playing with her. He didn't want to leave her high and dry. And Chris said this in his book as well. He didn't want to leave without you know, Shelly Lares' blessing, because he was first, you know, Shelly's band member. And once Shelly gave him the green light, he was able to go ahead and join Los Dinos, and then the rest is history. So that wraps up episode 4. Those are all the notes I jot down, and all the things that I drew out of episode 4 that meant, you know, something to me. That meant something to me in a way that I was mesmerized by, and I wanted to just dig deep into my thoughts about it. And this is my reaction and my opinions on everything I jotted down for episode 4 so far. And I'm gonna go ahead and get into episode 5. This is the very last episode I jotted down notes for, simply because the episodes after this, there's not much like new information that us Selena fans know, other than what we already know. So I'm just gonna go ahead and wrap up episode 5, and I'm gonna talk about the notes I jotted down for episode 5, and then we can go ahead and wrap up our discussion. So, AB was not first choice for producer of Selena's first album with capital EMI. There was a lot of work that had to be done to prove that they were good enough for an English language album. So when Selena y Los Dinos signed with Capital EMI, AB was not chosen as first pick for producer because they wanted a Grammy Award-winning person. They wanted someone who had a Grammy. They wanted someone with experience already. They wanted somebody who they knew for sure, according to the numbers and according to the books, could guarantee made them hit records, hit songs. And since AB had not yet won a Grammy, they doubted him. You know what I'm saying? And Abraham was like, look here. You're not going to tell me that my son cannot produce this album. He can. And if you don't have one of us, you have none of us. And I commend Abraham for that, because a lot of times the music industry would tell you who you should and shouldn't have. They will try to tell you what your image should and shouldn't be. They will tell you how to be and how to do. And the music industry has a tendency to try to take over your image or your look, your everything, just everything down to the wire. And Abraham, he stood up to Jose Bahar and the music label and was like, you're not going to just shut my son out like that. I mean, he's been making her songs all this time. All the hit songs and records that Los Dinos have is because of AB. AB has been a producer since day one. So after Abraham successfully talked Jose Bahar into letting AB be the producer, they went on ahead and put in the work that they had to do. They really had to deal with a lot of bullshit to convince the label to let them do an English language album. And unfortunately, Selena could not finish the English language album. She was able to get some songs done and started, but she was not able to finish the album and get it done because she eventually she unfortunately passed away, as you all know. But let's go ahead and move forward with the next note. It says, the music industry wanted to control every aspect of their look and production. There wasn't much room for them to do what they wanted. They had to make the record company happy. And I was just talking about that. The record company wants sole control of the production, of the decisions, of everything down to the wire. And they usually, are known for shutting the artists out and just completely taking over. Abraham was the dictatorship of the band and his kids, but he also had a soft side to him. And this is what I was talking about earlier when I first started the video, was I saw a soft side to Abraham that I had never seen before. I've always saw that tough side of him that I didn't like. And I think that's what drew me to dislike Abraham. But I'm not trading sides. I'm not saying that, I'm jumping on Abraham's bandwagon now. But what I am saying is this series has allowed me to see Abraham in a better light. It has allowed me to see the human side to Abraham that I haven't been able to be exposed to actually seeing. Let me go ahead and read the rest of my note. It says, he was a man that truly loved his family. He seemed to be the one who talked to his kids when they were sad about something in the band. So whenever things didn't go right and Selena, AB, and Suzette was sad about something or depressed about something or nervous about something, he always sat his children down and had to talk to them and made them feel better. He gave them that extra energy and confidence that they needed to keep pushing forward. Their dad was a huge part of their support system. Obviously, this series is showing that. And Abraham did an amazing job when it came to that. So I'm going to just say Abraham, he had his negative side, and he had his positive side. He had his rough side, and he had his soft side. And all the negative and rough sides to Abraham is what made me dislike him, but I am now beginning to see the soft and positive side to Abraham, and I truly see Abraham's value to this band and his children's performing in his dream. I just wish that he didn't solely focus on it because it was his dream. I wish he would have given his children more time and attention and focused on his children's personal dreams so that they could feel, complete and fulfilled in their lives. But other than that, Abraham, you get the credit for, you know, holding stats and staying steady, and you helping your children get to the top. You did your part, and I saw why you did it, and I saw why you had that rough side to you. You had to do that because this business doesn't allow you to be soft. It forces you to have tough skin, and it forces you to be rough. So I'm now beginning to see Abraham from the inside out, if that makes sense. Last note here, it says Selena started adding in new dance moves and slowly finding and coming into herself. So she was adding new dance moves. She was adding new gestures on stage. She was adding, you know, different hairstyles and different outfits. I mean, she was just trying all kind of different things. But when she started adding new dance moves, that's when she really started coming into the late Selena that we all been knowing. But before the late Selena, she was, you know, trying different things to find herself. And one of the things she was doing was dyeing her hair a lot, changing her hairstyle. And then she later on, I say the late 80s, early 90s, she started adding in, the late 80s, she started adding in new dance moves, new gestures, new things that would make her look more, you know, attractive, or make her more engaging on stage with the fans. So I was able to see how she started adding things and started making little changes to become the late Selena that we've always known. And it's just wonderful to see. You know, I'm glad I was able to see from the inside looking out versus the outside looking in. I really enjoy watching this series. I had really exciting, fun time getting to see and find out all the things that I didn't know prior. It's like I'm getting my cereal and my milk, whereas before I had the cereal, but I didn't have the milk, but now I have the milk to add to the cereal, so now I can eat the cereal. If it makes sense. I knew the outside things, but I didn't know much of, you know, the journey that they had in order to get to where they are now from the inside. I didn't know the inner core things. I didn't know things behind closed doors. I didn't know about things behind the scenes, and those are the nitty-gritty things that us Selena fans, we were dying to get to know and find out, and we finally have it. I think the series did an amazing job. They have amazing actors. I don't care about the costumes. I don't care about the wigs. What mattered is how they told the story, how they projected it, and they did an amazing job. That the actors did an amazing job embodying these characters, and they did an amazing job with production. I was satisfied, and this was way better than what I was expecting, because like I said before, with all the talk about the cheap costumes and hair wigs and this, that, and the third, you know, a lot of people were anticipating a terrible job, but this was a really good job. I was impressed. Netflix, I was impressed with the Selena series. You guys did great. Thank y'all for making this for us. This was a long time coming for us Selena fans. We really needed this, and we finally got it. Write down your comments below under the description box, and jot down whatever thoughts you got. Tell me what you guys think. Tell me what you guys agree with or don't disagree with, and I will see you guys on the next video coming. And like I always say, do you live your best life, get yourself together, and no robot behaviors over here. Because if Selena was here, that's what she would want all her fans to do, is live their best life and make their dreams come true. All right? I'll see y'all on the next video. Peace. Later, guys. Big Bertha. Bye now.